closer, it's just getting sunnier and sunnier, and it's interesting because it's almost kind of like symbolic, like that I'm like going to a brighter place right now. Yeah, so I'm a little bit exhausted today after everything. You know, I haven't been getting the greatest sleep the past couple weeks, but I'm definitely just relieved that I'm almost out of this transitional period, and in fact it'll only be another hour, and then basically not be out of it, but I'll be able to take a little bit of a sigh of relief, you know. But something I've been thinking about a lot that is something I want to put my focus into for the next for the rest of my life actually, is I really want to work on building just more resilience within myself. And you know, I think that we can all sometimes feel these moments where we have insecurity and we let it dictate our actions and what we say. And I really want to spend a lot of time. I've been talking about self-growth over the next couple of years, and included in self-growth is emotional resilience, and that's something I want to work a lot on over the next while here and forever. But I feel like a while back I had a lot of emotional resilience, but there were some issues that I hadn't really fully dealt with directly, and it was like, even though I had the some emotional resilience, what would happen is that these small issues that I hadn't dealt with would kind of creep in every once in a while, and it wasn't anything major, but even just those small little things, you know, and like, you know, you kind of do something you don't mean or say something you don't mean, and then you regret it, you apologize or whatever, and it seems like it's not a big deal in the moment, but over time, if that continues to keep happening, whether it's like with your friendships, relationships, or any part of your life, those things are going to add up, and if you let it, it's going to take away from the way that other people feel when they're around you, because they're not going to feel like emotionally kind of safe talking to you. So that's something I've been realizing a lot recently, is that, you know, like, even if something doesn't seem like a big deal in the moment, like when you say something you don't mean, you don't really ever want to be saying things you don't mean. And I think, like, we have to be forgiving with ourselves sometimes too, but if you give yourself too much forgiveness though, and you just like accept that as good enough, and maybe this is just how I am, the problem with that is that it removes any room for growth when there's always room for growth. And I definitely was guilty of that sometimes in the last few years, and you can't beat yourself up about the past, but it is important, I think, that we learn from the past and that we are always trying to grow. So that's been on my mind a lot today on this drive, and I've also just been doing a lot of reflection recently, and just kind of realizing that, you know, the way that I show up, like, I don't want to be a rehearsed person. And what I mean by that is, I don't want my actions to be performative. And most of the time I've always felt like my actions weren't performative, but sometimes I think, you know, like, I was not always acting in a way that I would feel proud of myself. I was like looking in from the outside. So I think that's a big like paradigm shift I've had recently, is that I want to be able to be proud of my decisions even when there's no one around. Like I want to be that's who we really are too, is like I think we need to ask ourselves sometimes, like, who are we when no one's watching? Like, are we still putting in the hard work when no one's watching? Or are we only putting in the hard work because we want other people to see our hard work? And you know, I think for me, luckily I was not ever really like 100% one way or the other, but I do think that part of my unconscious approach was, you know, some of it was because other people were watching, and I would feel like, oh, like I want to, like I know I'm, you know, a nice guy or whatever, so I gotta be like extra nice right now. And being nice is great, but again, if you're kind of like being overly nice and you're just trying to like convince somebody that you're nice, then that almost says to yourself that you don't really believe you're actually that nice in a weird way, you know what I mean? Because if you feel like you have to perform something in order for someone else to believe it, then that's kind of a double-edged sword. But yeah, it's been interesting recently because you know, when you have a lot of time to yourself to kind of reflect on things, you realize a lot of things that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. And especially if I was still numbed by the addiction and stuff, like I would not be taking notice of these things because my emotions again would be kind of deregulated. And I think there's sometimes like, I don't think there's like, I don't ever believe I know the answer for everyone, so you always have to do what works for you. But you know, sometimes I used to believe like, oh, like if I don't partake in this addiction, then my emotions will be not regulated. And that's almost like the kind of stuff your brain tries to feed you, because it tries to give you these false reasons why this, you know, is a good idea, or why you should continue with the destructive habit. And you really have to be consciously aware of what your brain is doing, and like ask yourself, is this really constructive, or is my brain telling me this because it misses this coping mechanism? That's a really big shift that I think has to happen in your mind to fix something like this. And I'm not going to go around saying that I fixed it, but I think that I have. I have come to a lot better of a mental place about it, and this situation has given me some clarity on what was really going on. You know, I wish that I had noticed it sooner. I wish that I had done this work earlier. I mean, I started to, right? But I was still a little bit trapped in it in some ways. And, you know, so showing up when people are not around means, like, you know, I want to be working out every day, and not because of what I care about what someone else thinks, but I want to do it because it's good for me, and because I like doing it, because it makes me feel good, not for any other reason. And it's also, you know, it gives me longevity. And I think things like eating healthy, like that one I've never had as much of a problem with, but just things like that I think are good to keep in mind. But I'm definitely looking forward though, guys, to getting out of this car. Been pretty much like not really having a home for weeks now, so I'm just so excited to not be doing this kind of thing anymore, but not the updates, but the living situation, or not living, you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I wanted to just be as thorough as possible with these updates that I've been doing recently, because I think that this has been a very pivotal time for me, and maybe these particular updates could help someone who might also be going through a hard time. Because, you know, I firmly believe this, but you have the power to do whatever you want in life, and you know, you can't always like predict everything, but I do think that our mental state and our emotions, if we can learn to control those, and obviously you can't totally control like emotions, like everyone is going to feel emotions that they don't really want to sometimes, and or like unexpected, you know, that's inevitable. But it's more about what you do after you feel that emotion and how you're allowing your brain to process it. Because I think for me, you know, what would happen in a lot of these moments where I would feel like an insecure emotion, or I would feel just any kind of negative emotion, is my brain would tend to then say, oh, this is a negative emotion, like, and it would start to pick it apart and say, well, maybe you're having this because of this negative thing, or because there, you know, X, Y, and Z is actually wrong. And then before you know it, you know, just a small thing that happened in your brain turns into like you start thinking there's all these other things wrong in your life. But in reality, you know, it might actually really just be a passing feeling. So I think when you get a really strong emotion like this, it's almost more like you have to counter it a little bit and say, well, what are like, you know, if I feel insecure, or if I feel grief, or what, you know, frustration, whatever it might be, to turn it around and say, well, you have all of these other good things that are, you know, telling you that you shouldn't necessarily like let frustration get to you so much. Like, yeah, you know, it's okay to feel frustrated in a moment, but like, you have to ask yourself, like, do you want to like let this frustration fester and start to dictate what you say to people and how you act? Or do you want to say, well, okay, I see that thought for what it is, but is there really like a good reason for me to be frustrated? Is this really something worth letting take over my mind and my actions right now? And you have to like, sometimes it's like your cerebral cortex will kind of shut off a little bit, and like it's almost like you start acting out of only emotion and not logic. And that's when it's really dangerous, because you're not going further with the thinking. And we have to like make sure we're looking at our emotions sometimes with like the logical side too, and really asking ourselves, like, you know, you sometimes have to be able to sit with an uncomfortable emotion for a second and just realize that it doesn't mean anything like about what's actually going on. But anyway, this video is getting kind of long, but those are my thoughts for today. I hope that you guys have a good week, and I will update again soon.